Well, Conte won 8 Serie A titles while at Juventus, 5 as a player, 3 more in a row as a manager, and he worked very closely with Tottenham's managing director of football, Fabio Paratici. We can bring in Italian football expert Mina Rzouki for some more insight on that. Really good to see you, Mina. Were you surprised when you heard that Conte was actually so close to joining Spurs, having these discussions with also so much uncertainty surrounding Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's future too?
Yes, I wasn't surprised when his name was linked with Tottenham Hotspurs earlier in the summer, because he is not just somebody who's worked with Fabio Paratici, but he's also a close friend of his. And they have always remained such close friends despite some ongoing tensions between Juventus and the Inter manager last season. And yet again, when he was now being associated to the club, it does come as a surprise, but not only just because of the Manchester United link, but also because we know that Antonio Conte wants to take over a project in which he knows for certain that he can make a difference. And another thing is that usually that is much harder to do when you're coming in the middle of the season. For one thing, the players have a mentality problem. He is not there to work on their physical conditioning. There is so much work to do, and he won't have a preseason or time to really prepare because he's got to get stuck in straight away. So when you consider how much he loves to control everything around him, it does seem to be a bit bizarre that he is willing to come in the mid-season.
He does, however, have a relationship with Fabio Paratici. He worked with him, of course, at Juve. How important is that relationship? What do you know about how they worked together?
Oh, it is a wonderful relationship. They worked together, obviously, at Juventus alongside Beppe Marotta. Beppe Marotta took him to Inter, as he is now the director over there. And Conte did marvelous things at Inter, but unfortunately there wasn't the money or the conditions for him to remain there, and so he decided to walk out. Now, with Fabio Paratici, it was more of a friendly relationship in the sense that they actually spent time together, relaxed in each other's company. I remember at a time in 2013 when we had gone to watch Borussia Dortmund versus Real Madrid in Madrid, and those two would go for dinner together, they would spend time together, they did everything together. So this is a very tight-knit relationship between the two. Fabio Paratici has always defended his corner. He really does believe in Antonio Conte, even though there were problems between Agnelli and Conte. Paratici wanted him back at Juventus. It didn't really work out, obviously. Like I mentioned, there were problems with Agnelli. But certainly at Tottenham Hotspurs, this would be a reunion between not only two people who worked marvellously together and won titles together, but who believe in one another, are loyal to one another, and most importantly, great friends.
Now, Conte has a bit of a reputation of falling out with people. How much of that is true? And do you think that's a bit of a worry with how his relationship might be with Daniel Levy?
Antonio Conte won't fall out with you if you are loyal to him and if you give in to his demands. He comes in and he is very clear about what it is that he wants and how he thinks he can affect the team. He likes to have a lot of control. He's very charismatic and he's a winner. And he cares a lot about his reputation. So there's no need for empty promises. You come in and you have to tell him how much money you're willing to spend, what you are looking to do, and how much control you are allowing him to give you. If and only if he agrees to all these conditions, you must live by these promises. Otherwise, he's more than happy to walk away, just like he did at Inter and various different clubs, including Juventus. If he does feel that the club is working closely with him to satisfy his demands and he can see clear progression and he is allowed the control that he always has demanded, then he will be exemplary. But he is somebody who is fiery. He loves to win. And that is part of why he is a winner. He has an ego. He wants to be satisfied. And he wants to make sure that he is one of the all-time most successful coaches. And that comes at a cost. And sometimes it does mean that he does fall out with big directors. But certainly the worst thing that Spurs can do is offer him a lot of empty promises, because he has absolutely no qualms about telling you where to go if they are not turned out to be as real and as concrete of an offer.
Now, Conte did a pretty good job of getting the best out of Romelu Lukaku as they won Serie A with Inter Milan last season. How do you see that happening with Harry Kane? Do you think he can do the same?
Yes, absolutely. The one thing that Antonio Conte knows how to do is work with a striker. His tactics at times have been somewhat criticized, especially also in Italy, because they're not always ones that are heavily nuanced or offensive schemes that will blow you away. But the team does score goals, and we saw that with Romelu Lukaku. He knows how to arrange the conditions so that he exploits the potential of his striker. He does like a battler up front, so Harry Kane has different. Obviously, we know that he's different to Romelu Lukaku and not necessarily has all the same physicality, or the way that he plays football is exactly the way that Antonio Conte will see it. But he will try to get the best out of him, and you know that he will succeed because he will set the right conditions around him. I think that he will especially enjoy working with Son. He is somebody that allows the defense to be secure, and that allows for the launch of the attack to feel safe in the regard that at the back, they are well protected, they are well defended. So there's a certain level of freedom offensively that will allow Harry Kane to just go forward, and so will Son, without having to wonder what is going to happen behind them, what they have to do off the ball. But he is a task master, and he is somebody that requires constant focus in the game, constant desire of application, always working hard, always focused. He is mentally trading, so it is an exhaustive procedure, but I do think Harry Kane will be at his best under Conte.
Right. A lot of Spurs fans are pretty unhappy about the style of play under Nuno. How will things change on the pitch under Conte?
I think sometimes Conte gets an unfair rap about the fact that he's a little bit defensive. He's not. What he likes to do is impose a tactical identity. He likes to make sure the defense is secure. So I think that's the first thing that he'll work on. Tight lines, making sure that everyone knows their positioning, awareness of everything around that. And he starts with the fundamentals, which is something each coach should really do when they arrive at a team. After that, he will then work on the offensive applications and how to bring out the best in your attack. You're not going to see totally beautiful football in the way that we have grown accustomed to in the Premier League with the likes of Jurgen Klopp and Pep Guardiola, but you will have winning football. At Inter, only Atalanta outscored Inter last season in Serie A, and that was only by 1 goal. We looked at least 2 goals per game from Inter. Lukaku was tremendous. Lautaro Martinez was tremendous. And don't forget, all the midfielders always chime in and get a goal as well. So what you will see is a clear plan. Every player will know exactly what he's supposed to do on the pitch. There will be goals, but you won't concede any either. And I think that's the beauty of Antonio Conte. He doesn't really care about anything as long as he collects the results. But it's certainly not boring defensive football. He likes to see his attack score goals. And as we saw in Serie A last season, they scored plenty of them.
Yeah, Tottenham fans would be loving to see that, and Harry Kane getting back to his best. Do you think, though, he can bring instant success to Spurs?
Well, instant success is a little bit too demanding, to be honest with you. I think first and foremost, he needs to work on the mentality of these players. When we look at how much ground is being covered by the Spurs players, this is something that needs to be looked at. He wants to make sure that this team really are willing to fight for him, so he'll work on that. He'll want to see the ambition in each of those players' eyes. And then he'll work on their physical conditioning, because he needs players that are willing to run. Now, this is an interesting topic, because last year he had Antonio Pintus. Antonio Pintus was obviously very famous for having worked under Zinedine Zidane at Real Madrid and won 3 Champions Leagues in a row. He then moved to Inter with Antonio Conte, and we saw what happened. They obviously lifted the title. He's without Pintus because Pintus has gone back to Real Madrid, so he doesn't have his perfect conditioning coach. But he needs to work on the physicality of these Spurs players and make sure they are willing to cover ground. But he'll also work on their positioning so that will help them ensure that they keep better defensive records and not concede by such huge amounts like they have done recently, but also allow them the platform to score. I can't see this being instant because he has to change diets. He will try to control every aspect at that club. So it will take time, but his tactics are simple enough for him to install them immediately. So you will definitely see an upturn straight away.
Mina, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.